Okay, quick lesson on syllabicating words. We have various reasons to syllabicate a word, and the old reason of, if we're typing and you can't fit the word on the line and you have to follow those rules, to put the rest of the word on the next line, that doesn't happen anymore, so we don't teach that. The other reasons for syllabicating are inverse reasons to encode, so to teach someone to spell the word, you break it into syllables. And if you're doing it to teach the spelling, you might emphasize more the morphology of keeping the parts of the words that have meaning together. If you're teaching someone to read the word by breaking it into syllables, that's a slightly different emphasis, and you will break the words in a way that gives you the proper pronunciation. For instance, in speaking, the natural pattern in speaking is to break after the vowel sound. Like if I had the word gossip, I naturally say gossip, and I would, I would say ga, but I don't break it like this. But we naturally pause after the vowel. But that's not what we do in syllabicating words. We break according to the rules that we teach on open and closed syllables, the syllable types basically, and the sounds that go with it. So let's look at these words here. If you're teaching someone to spell the word, I'll go over it both ways. If I'm teaching someone to read the word, I would say, do you see any prefixes or suffixes? And maybe they know ANT. And I would say, okay, let's just mark ANT is a pretty common suffix or word ending. But covering that doesn't give me a clue as the word yet. And so then I would say, let's look for any multi-letter graphemes or digraphs or trigraphs, parts that stay together. And so we're going to try to keep that together. I'm going to underline it to keep it together. My next step is to mark my vowels. The E here with the R, ER, that's a vowel. There we go. We have 4 vowels. You're going to have 4 syllables because every syllable has a vowel sound. Every vowel has to be in its own syllable. Between these two, I see I have 2 consonants. If I see 2 consonants, I'm going to split between them. Between these two, I have 1 consonant. Generally, I would split in front of 1 consonant. Between these two, I see 1 consonant, but I have linked the E with the ER, so I'm going to try not to split it, the ER. I'm going to try to do that. Well, this would give me ac, C, because C says in front of an E, but E at the end of a syllable would be E, so it'd be accelerant. Accelerant. Well, I don't know what the heck that is. That doesn't make a word that I know. So my first thing I would try is to change this one. Because when you have one consonant between 2 vowels, about 75% of the time you split in front of it, the consonant, and about 25% of the time you split after it. The difference is that this syllable here is now a closed syllable, and the E would say eh. So that becomes accelerant, and that's a word I know, accelerant. If I'm teaching someone to spell this word, I'm giving it to them as a spelling list, we would say it, I would tell them the pronunciation of the word accelerant, and now we would spell it in that way. I'd say, okay, the syllable ac, here we go, cell, and in this case, usually after a C. I'm not going to have an S, so my S sound here would be another C, and it's in front of an E. So I know C says S in front of an E. Excel, ant. And the trick in spelling is we don't pronounce this really clearly. So you would want to say, you're going to think to spell accelerant, and not, if you just say accelerant, you're not sure if you're saying an A-N-T or an E-N-T. And there are some very obscure rules as to when to say A-N-T and E-N-T. Generally, if you can say accelerate, if you know the verb form is A-T-E, you're going to use the A-N-T to make the noun or adjective form using the ending. So now, assuming that we're going to just teach someone to spell using these words, we will break it for them, and we will break it according to the way that reinforces what we've taught. So I will tell a student, this says dominant, and we are going to think dominant. And the reason I will do that is I have taught the rule, if I'm thinking about my vowels again, I've taught the rule that if there's one vowel here and one vowel here and one consonant in between, we generally split in front of the consonant. So dominant. And we hear it clearly. If I had the other dominate, you could hear more clearly the split there. So I would keep that split in dominant, even though, you might argue and say, well, let's split after the N. Syllabicating words should never be the goal itself. The goal is always either to use the skill of syllabicating to read or to spell. So whichever way helps. And if someone wants to argue and say a split after the N, say fine, you can do it that way. It's not a big deal. But are you being aware of the sounds that are happening so that you can use that to help you read or spell it? Okay, the word is lubricant. If I'm teaching this to spell, I would say lubricant, and I would split it here because I know that U says U at the end of a syllable. So in an open syllable, A, E, O, U would say they're long sounds or their second sounds. So the U says U. Lubricant. So this part here is now an open syllable. I and Y usually say I, even in an open syllable. So I and Y usually say I at the end of a syllable, but they may say I. Lubricant. And I would do that because here I've got a vowel, here I've got a vowel. Splitting it here reinforces the rule I've taught about 75% of the time. You split in front of the single consonant. Okay. So again, looking at it to teach spelling, observant. Observant. I would say observant. Now, this reinforces that I've got two consonants here between these vowels, and I'm going to split between them. However, you may want to split it. Knowing that the root word was observe, you may want to split it here because you then are going to say, I'm going to drop this E and add my suffix. So if you want to do it like that, it's not wrong. Just know the reason that you're doing it that way is so that you are reinforcing your spelling rules of silent E's will drop in front of a vowel suffix. Reverent, again, the same thing. Here, if you're already told them the pronunciation of the word and you're saying, what's the first syllable? And they say rev, you're going to do this, right? Rev, and you would split it like this, based on the way you've pronounced it, right? Because if I split my syllable like this, I would have to say re, and I don't want to say reverent. So I would say my syllable is rev, ent. Now this is a case where I have a vowel, one consonant, and I have to split after it. So this is the 25% of the time you're going to split after a single consonant. And if I were reading this word and I had never seen it before, I would try split it in front of the V first, pronounce the word, and then say, I don't know what reverent is, and then I would try splitting it after to say reverent. I hope that makes sense to you. I'm just going to go very quickly and split these. I'm actually going to do a few based on how you would teach someone to read unknown words. I see a suffix. Maybe this is a prefix. I don't know. It could be. Do I see any multi-letter phonograms or digraphs, whatever you want to call them? I don't. So I'm going to just go ahead and mark my vowels. 4 vowels. I'm going to have 4 consonants. I have 2 consonants here, split between them. I will try this first because that's what happens 75% of the time. Here we go. I've got 1 consonant split there. This would say contaminant. Contaminant. Don't know it. Not a real word. So then I'll try this. Contaminant. Oh, okay, that gives a word. So this is another one of the 25% times where you split after the consonant. Happens again. Here, I only have 2 vowels, so I'm splitting it there. And this, the I is saying I at the end of the syllable. This is the one that you're right in saying it's an oddity because we're not saying anymore. This is one where we're actually saying E, and now you could say adherent, and you can split it there. But I would, if I were teaching this to someone, I would want them to note that they're using E, the long sound, in adherent, even though it's an ER. And here we go, deterrent, and it's there. Here we go, deviant, D, E says E at the end of a syllable. This is the odd one. I can say E, generally in Latin words, in front of a vowel. So if the I is coming in front of a vowel, like radio, the I can say E. And it's an open syllable, but it's not saying eh, it's not saying I, it's going to say E. And sorry, that didn't look very nice. Hesitate. This E is making the A say A, and the S is saying Z, hesitate. At the end of a syllable, the S often says Z. Stagnant. Nothing unusual happened. Here we go. Same root word, the same Latin root as adherent, coherent. The here, this part in here, means to stick together, right? So it's the same root that we saw before, and it's going to be that same funny thing happening where the E is saying E. And it really doesn't matter if you split it here and say coherent, or if you split it here and say coherent. It's just an oddity that the E is saying E and not but it's because it's using the same there, the same root as here. Okay, like in adhesive, you can hear the he sound in adhesive, right? Okay, adjacent. The A is saying A at the end of a syllable. The C is saying S in front of an E. D, O. Okay, you can do that. And this is a schwa, or an unstressed syllable, so the OR is saying deodorant. So if I'm teaching someone to spell this, I would overemphasize the or, and we would think to spell deodorant. And if you say it like that, you'll remember that it's a OR, deodorant, deodorant. Here we go. Immigrant, if you'll notice that number of consonants. Okay, here, if you say, well, I'm going to split it there because you told me with 2 vowels and 2 consonants in between, we should split there. You can do that, and you would say immigrant. You'd come up with the same pronunciation. But so it really doesn't matter if the goal is to read the word or spell the word. But because you also have migrant, and you use the long sound I in migrant, I would keep it here and just know that we've now changed it to an I sound. And I and Y usually say I at the end of a syllable, so an open syllable, but they may say I. So in migrant it says I, but immigrant it says I. Here we go. This one again, doesn't matter if you split it there and say grievant, or if you split it here and say, well, there was a silent E that got dropped. Doesn't matter. Here we go. Doesn't matter here, but you're making that sound. And complacent, A is saying A at the end of a syllable.